Oh man, wow. Thank you, Brother Absurd. Brother Absurd. Thank you. Okay. Cool. So I guess I have to start that all over again. Donald King here. Thanks for pointing that out to me. I forgot to hit on my microphone. Anyway, good evening to you all. It's another stormy or snowy night in Ohio. Hope everyone is being safe out there. I was speaking earlier when my microphone was off about all the different things I have going on in life right now. I have a lot of irons in the fire, and I'm trying to keep track of everything at the exact same time. And, wearing a bunch of different hats and juggling different responsibilities that require attention from you in different realms of consideration is a difficult thing to do, right? And in this, and in knowing this, it brings to mind the fact that every now and again you have to do checkups on yourself to make sure that your frame of reference is intact. You have to make sure that you are that your mind is synced up with reality and functioning and healthy. And that is the subject of tonight's podcast. We want to talk about mental and emotional health. I covered this in a previous video. But I wanted to circle back to it because times are stressful. Times are very stressful, and when stress impacts upon people, it has a tendency to sort of scare them into delving deeper and deeper into their inner story, and in so becoming more and more divorced from reality. When you go deeper into the inner story, when you go deeper into the internal narrative, you have a tendency to rely more on feelings, beliefs, and presuppositions than you do on actual reasoning, which is the act of processing, consuming, processing, organizing, outputting information, ideas, and expressions in real time, and honesty. So when you fall deeper into the inner story, you rely on feelings and beliefs and aggression and authority figures and things that sort of process information and reality for you. Whereas when you're dialed into reality, you actually allow your own cognitive process to do the sort of navigating through phenomena, effects, and other such things in reality. And hopefully I said that well enough. By the way, bear with me. I'm still in the process of dialing in. Like I said, I have a lot going on right now. And, trying to make sense of it, trying to keep track of all these moving parts, sometimes can be pretty it can be pretty stressful, but it's still manageable, And this brings us to the point of how to determine whether or not your mind is actually functioning and healthy, right? All right, so we have to start off with two very basic premises, right? Let's start with making a differentiation, okay? There are two primary systems that you can process information and reality on. In my work, I refer to one as the intuitive operating system, and then I refer to the other as idealism, okay? The intuitive operating system, it sort of relies on your biological attributes. So the intuitive operating system, it deals more in reasoning, which is again the act of processing, consuming, processing, organizing, outputting information, ideas, and expressions and events in real time. And it also relies on honesty and observation. So through the intuitive operating system, you can see, you can observe, you can take information in, right? You can process information and understand how whatever it is that you're observing fits with other things that you're able to observe. And this helps you figure out how you exist in relation to the context around you. Okay, so how, or better yet, more accurately, it helps you understand, reasoning helps you understand and recognize what is most consistent with reality. Okay? Conversely, you have a system of idealism. Idealism it doesn't really have to do with what's happening in reality. It forms sort of conceptual maps of what's happening in reality, but then those conceptual maps can get bent and altered and distorted, and then, just infiltrated with all sorts of effects that don't actually exist within reality. Pardon me. So, the reason why it's important to understand the difference between these systems is because our concept of mental health is primarily based not on what a person does and or how their mind is able to process information in reality through the intuitive operating system, but instead based on how their internal story, how their inner narrative syncs up with the greater narrative within a given social construct. Okay? So, and I'm going to break that down and make it a little bit easier. Most people believe people are sane when people's inner story matches the bigger story that everyone has agreed to. Most people's idea of sanity is based on how in sync individuals' vantage points and or perceptions and inner stories are with the greater social narrative. If you believe what everyone else believes, then you're sane. If you behave the way everyone else behaves, you're sane. If you believe what other people don't believe, then you must be defective somehow. And if you behave differently from how other people behave, then you must be defective. If we're taking it to a principle standpoint, right? Sanity, and this actually carries over into how it's sort of broken down in academia and science, right? Sanity is the ability to differentiate the inner story from reality. It's the ability to know the difference between how you perceive and or are experiencing things and how effects are in reality, generally as concluded upon by the greater social narrative, right? But when you can't tell the difference between what's happening in your inner story and what's happening in reality, well, that is what is commonly referred to as psychosis. It's commonly referred to as psychosis. The problem is, when you're dealing in idealism, everything is kind of like psychosis. So I want you to think about it like this. If you tell yourself that you're a unicorn, then you're living in your imagination. Yet somehow, everybody agrees to this idea that pieces of paper and metal, or the value these things are supposed to represent, actually has the power to tell people what to do and whether or not they can live and survive. So, everybody agrees to one fiction, and if you're sane, then you agree to that fiction too. But if you have your own fiction that doesn't necessarily sync up with the greater fiction, then you're mentally defective. So, in society, sanity is not based on how in sync with reality you are, but instead based on how in sync with the greater social narrative you are. If everybody believes the same thing at the same time, and you believe something different or see something in a different way, then you are by default, by social standards, crazy, mentally defective. And this takes us into a greater point. If the only way for you to be sane in society is to play along with everyone else, what does that say about society in general? Let me ask you something. Can you take a Bible and preach to a fish? Can you pay a tree to chop itself down for you? If these effects have no authority and no ability to act on their own behalf in reality, then what gives them power within society is idealism, an agreed upon story, an agreed upon narrative. So, by default of going through the socialization process, you were made narcissistic, and by extension of narcissism, you were literally radicalized. You were made crazy. You were made psychotic. I mean, after all, if someone believes something that's divorced from reality as you understand it now, wouldn't you call them psychotic? Yet, we have these massive systems of stories wherein we select, or more accurately, individuals are selected on behalf of us to make decisions for the entire group. You look at a person who shits, bleeds, and pisses just like you, and you think somehow their life is more valuable than yours, based on series of agreements you make with yourself and with others. This system of beliefs is fundamentally divorced from reality, yet you allow it to steer your life. We all do, right? To some degree or another. So who draws the line at what is sane and what isn't? You know what's even weirder? Everybody's version, everybody's inner story contains their own version of the greater social narrative. Nobody's idea of the social narrative is 100% intact. It skews and distorts by and according to the individual experience. So no one believes the same things. Everybody's just sort of kind of in the same ballpark on certain things. But everyone is psychotic as a result of the socialization process. Which brings us back to the subject of mental health. How do you know if someone has a healthy mind? Well, look at it like this. A healthy mind can't be determined by what a person believes. If you think a person is mentally stable because they believe this set of information, but you think they're unstable because they believe this set of information, then you're unstable. A healthy mind necessarily entails having the ability to consume, organize, process, and output information, ideas, and expressions. If you're so dialed into your inner story that you can't tell the difference between someone not reflecting your inner story back to you and whether or not what they're saying is consistent with reality, then you're defective. If you can't tell the difference between someone making sense and someone reflecting your inner story back to you, then you're defective. It gets a little bit deeper than that, though. You see, it's not just about people being able to process information in reality well. You see, when people's inner story gets disrupted, it causes them to experience something called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is basically its aggression. It's what happens when reality doesn't match a person's inner story and or expectations they have based on information they've internalized and agreements they made with themselves regarding how legitimate the information is. This is what makes mentally unstable people what they are. If you're aggressive, then you're competitive. And if you're competitive, you're narcissistic. If you're competitive, aggressive, and narcissistic, your mind is corrupt. Mental health, in this sense, falls to your ability to process information and reality independently of your inner story. Can you tell when something makes sense? Or better yet, can you tell the difference between when something makes sense and when something agrees with you? And see, mental and emotional health, they're intertwined. If you're constantly getting triggered because something doesn't reflect your inner story back to you, then you're an emotionally volatile person. But a lot of this might sound like Chinese to y'all, so let me keep it real simple, right? You're mentally healthy when you can consider things that disagree with you. You're mentally healthy when you're not triggered by people or things that disagree with you. You're mentally healthy when you can laugh at yourself and you don't take yourself so seriously. You're not so given to defending your inner story that you can't consider anything that doesn't suggest you're right. When you practice reasoning and honesty, it expands your capacity for mental elasticity. I'm sure I could have said that better, but the more you practice reasoning and honesty, is the more flexible your mind and your spirit are. You're not so easy to offend. You're not so worried that something is going to come along and disrupt your identity that you have to attack and subdue it immediately. You can take information in. You can observe things properly. You can reason. And then you can draw conclusions based on what you've witnessed and how you have determined it fits with other effects you can observe within or a system within reality. But mental and emotional health, they're intertwined. In my last video, and in the videos prior to that, I was talking about how narcissism is, narcissism, it is a byproduct of trauma. All these people are running around here in the world right now, trying to force the world and others performing within the world to recognize, validate, and conform to their inner story. Here's why I'm right. Here's why I'm right. Here's why I'm right. I'm going to attack everything that says I'm wrong. I'm going to beat everything that says I'm wrong. You have to compete and aggress. And in the end, it doesn't do them any good. Right now, as a matter of fact, that's what the entire world is facing right now. Everyone is doing what they can to try and force the entire world to conform to their inner story, fit with their own sense of justice and order. You know how many times people say that I'm crazy for simply speaking contrary to their feelings and beliefs? I don't go out of my way to attack anyone. I simply describe things according to how I understand them and what I see. Yet people take personal offense to the notion that I would dare to say something that doesn't reflect their inner story back to them. Is that what a healthy mind should do? Is that what an emotionally stable person should do? I think not. Yet people assume that they are sane. That anyone, regardless of how much sense the person might make, that anyone who doesn't reflect their inner story back to them, or some version of a story that's adjacent to their inner story back to them, they assume that the person is automatically crazy. Which is why everyone is like, oh, geniuses, there's a thin line between genius and insanity. Who determines sanity? If everybody believes in fictions. Where does a person who is grounded in reality fit into a collective that runs on stories and idealism? Where's there room for genius? A world that runs on belief. Mental and emotional health, man. So, the question comes, how do you... What's that? Hold on, wait. Brother Absurd came in. How does an emotionally healthy person behave? Okay, well, that's a great question. How does an emotionally healthy person behave? 1 second, please. An emotionally healthy person is one who, in my view, demonstrates an awareness for the fact that reality is not their inner story. And as such, they aren't so aggressive and given to crushing any and everything that doesn't reflect their inner story back to them. Okay, so an emotionally healthy person can laugh through uncertainty or discomfort. And not like a maniacal laugh, but more along the lines of just have the mental elasticity to see ironies and their own limitations, and they have the ability to laugh and find joy in the midst of turmoil and uncertainty. An emotionally healthy person, in my view, is one who doesn't view themselves as being at the center of everything. It's a person who isn't narcissistic. When you can deprioritize yourself and you can consider others and consider not just the world around you and your value and place within it, but how you impact upon the world around you. And through your awareness for how you impact upon the world around you, develop empathy and compassion and a desire to understand the experiences of others and to want to genuinely assist and help others. This is what an emotionally healthy person does. If you're emotionally healthy and or emotionally balanced, or let's just call it balanced, the only thing you want to do is create balance. You're not so given to selfishness and self-preservation, or the perception of self-preservation, that you have to defeat everything so that you can shine. Hopefully I answered that well enough. But this is how I see it. So when you're emotionally healthy, you have the ability to adapt and adjust to reality in real time. The reason for this, again, being because it has to do with the process of syncing up with reality. Again, if truth is what's consistent with reality, and reality is what can be measured, understood, and experienced independent of the internal narrative. If truth is what's consistent with reality, and honesty is the individual's will and effort to recognize and be in sync with reality, and reasoning is using the mental faculties to suss out what's most consistent with reality, then a mentally healthy person is one who is living for reality. Conversely, a person who is emotionally volatile or mentally unhealthy, they live primarily for and within the inner story. They do everything to block out anything that could possibly threaten or change the inner story. And then on top of doing that, they try to crush anyone and everything that doesn't reflect the inner story back to them. You have to invalidate. If you're mentally unhealthy, you have to invalidate anyone or anything that suggests your inner story, your identity, isn't true and correct. But like I said, all narcissism, which is the default state of mental instability, all narcissism, it traces back to trauma. You know something good nobody ever spoke about regarding Donald Trump? He became a voice for the forgotten children. Right? A lot of people don't understand why this guy appealed to so many people. And if I were to summate it, it would be simply this. His whole campaign, his whole platform, it ran on, they discounted you. They left you behind. You didn't matter. But you matter to me. I'm going to get you what you want. I know you're angry. You have the right to be angry. You have the right to be mad. You have the right to take your anger and frustrations out on someone. I'm going to help you do it. A lot of people don't realize how brutal the socialization process is to so many people. You grow up watching these movies wherein you're led to believe that you're going to be the protagonist and the hero of your life. And you're going to be the big genius that changes the world. And you're going to be valued and loved, and everyone's going to want to fiddle your jiggly bits and whatnot. And you have all these people who are just jaded at the fact that none of it turned out that way. And here they are, being debt slaves, trading their lives away for resources to survive on. Trying to figure out how to live from one pay cycle to the next. And they're angry. They were lied to. They were told that they were supposed to be superior to certain groups of people, yet all these people who they were supposed to be superior to were inching ahead and catching up. The story that they were told was a lie. And everything that Donald Trump stood for was basically, hey, I know you got a raw deal, and I'm going to help make it right. That's why so many people stood with him. You know what's even funnier too? There's a lot of black people who loved Donald Trump during his second term. And a lot of these people, they were traumatized. There were a lot of women who, I saw in my feed, and some of whom I interacted with, who were traumatized. They were sexually abused as children, and even some guys too. And they became part of the system of forgotten children. And they just want somebody to hurt, somebody to make know all of the trauma that they carry around with them every day, all day. So, of course, this man, he appealed to individuals who were hurting and traumatized. And yeah, they were wildly aggressive and They were doing all these things and they thought that they were fighting for their lives, and nobody questions why they thought they were fighting for their lives in this last election. Nobody bothered to ask deeper questions. They just assumed these people were all crazy. They didn't try to understand. They only wanted to be right. They said, hey, you stupids, your inner story doesn't match my inner story, so you're dumb or you're crazy. These people may be those things to some degree. However, there's legitimacy in their trauma. This last 4 years, we were hit with back-to-back wave of just psychological terror, especially here in the United States. Racism this, disease that, social reform this, losing rights that. All these people are traumatized. In the midst of everything going on in the world right now, even now carrying over into the new administration, we have all this trauma, we have all this fear, we have all this doubt and uncertainty. And you see, the thing is, the more people are traumatized by what's going on in the world right now, is the deeper and deeper they delve into these inner stories. And the deeper they delve into these inner stories is the more volatile and divorced from reality they become. It's a vicious cycle. Get traumatized, go deeper into the inner story, become more divorced from reality, become more psychotic, perpetuate the cycle. So you got to check up on people every now and again, you know? I try to check up on people. I have so many things. Again, I have so many irons in the fire that every now and again I need to check up on myself. I'm like, yo, Don, are you good? Are you good, bro? The reason why I have to do that is because I need to make sure that my mind is synced up with reality. That I'm not lost and living off somewhere in my inner story. Healthy mind, it can consume and process information properly. Not just things that agree with it. You know? So yeah, man. It's tough. It's tough for a lot of people. You know, there are lots of people who come to my page trying to attack me. They come to my post. I had somebody come to my Medium post the other day and they were like, I'm going to tear you down, okay? And even though they're being aggressive, even though their aggression is annoying, I understand that it comes from a place of trauma. I understand that these identities or these shields they've erected around them in order to keep them safe from things that might threaten them. Because I understand that they're trying to just keep themselves safe. As much as you want to knock the asshole out, you realize in the grand scheme of things that helping them find their way out of this shield turned prison is the better move. So yeah, man. How to tell if you're emotionally healthy. Where do you live your life? Are you synced up with reality? Or are you lost in your inner story? How to tell if you're synced up with reality or lost in your inner story? If you're lost in your inner story, you're triggered by anything that doesn't reflect your inner story back to you. You need to defend your feelings and beliefs. If you're healthy, mentally healthy and emotionally healthy, you shouldn't have any beliefs to defend. You're always trying to recognize and sync up with whatever's most consistent with reality. What makes the most sense? It doesn't agree with your inner story. Don't give a shit if it agrees with my inner story. What makes the most sense? Does that person make sense? They make sense on this point and this point, but they say these things that don't agree with your inner story. But they make sense only when they're saying things, but they make sense. And the only time they don't make sense is when they're saying things that don't agree with my inner story. Maybe my inner story is wrong. Shit, let me see what they're talking about. Let me see what makes the most sense. That's mentally healthy. Emotionally healthy. Hey, this person is unlike me, but that doesn't devalue them. Hey, shit, you know what? I'm not reactionary. I'm not so given to blowing up on everything that doesn't agree with me that I can't consider things that don't. There's some emotional give. There's some flex in there. I expect to get hurt in life. I expect to get hurt, but I don't let that become my identity. I won't let my pain become my identity. It's emotionally healthy. Hey, my inner sense of justice has been violated. I must get even with them. Emotionally unhealthy. You know what? I have the choice to either heal or get even. I'm going to choose to heal and to not carry the trauma they inflicted with me forward to someone else. That's emotionally healthy. Brother Lucas writes, I am batshit crazy, but I have to complete my mission. Okay. I don't know what to say to that, good brother. I don't know if it's ever a good idea to call yourself crazy, because it's making an agreement with yourself that that's okay. And it's in essence making an agreement that it's okay to be lost in your inner story and thus fundamentally divorced from reality. But I mean, the question that like I guess comes after that is your mission, is it one that's actually coming from reality itself, or is it a mission that only exists and hold value within your inner story? Lots of people have missions. Serial killer has a mission. Hey, I must kill all the prostitutes within a 3-mile radius. Bury their bodies in the swamps. And do this for God! That's how some people think, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, their sense of justice and this game they've concocted in their mind, it only exists and holds value within their inner story. It's not based in reality. Not based in reality. So, a question that people often ask is, Donald King, how do you know you can trust the things that you see and or purport to see? How do you know that you're not crazy? I retain the ability to consider and respond to things that say that I'm not correct. I'm able to hold my frame of reference through things that disagree with me and to engage them fully without flinching or retreating into my internal narrative. I don't have to wish things away that say I'm wrong. I can investigate them, and through investigation, I've yet to find anything that suggests that I'm off. And I search, because you know why? I want to be consistent with reality. I don't have an inner story to defend. I don't have to block things out in order to keep the idea of myself intact. I've made no agreements with myself regarding what is right or wrong. I simply look in the direction of what is most consistent and or consistent with reality. It's that simple. Brother Lucas writes, what is reality? Reality is a living, sentient, and self-aware system which houses every system and interdependent systems of systems. So there are a couple of different ways to describe what reality is. Reality is, from a functional standpoint, at least by way of how we experience it as humans, reality is what can be experienced, witnessed, and perceived independently of the inner story and or anyone's perception or internal narrative. All right? Reality is what is, irrespective of what is perceived, what is felt, believed, or experienced. From a meta scale, reality is the phenomenon humans would rightfully call God. Reality is like a perfect accountant. It's a system that's made up of every other system, and it manages balance between systems and facilitates what we refer to as harmony or balance or symbiosis, etc. Reality is a living, sentient, and self-aware system. It's like a body. The main systems that reality manages balance between are the systems that humans refer to as existence and non-existence. And yes, somehow non-existence is a system. Insane, I know. But basically, reality is an entity that manages balance between systems. Yep. And yeah, so that's the easiest way to describe it. So yeah, reality manages balance between systems and effects within systems. And right now it is currently under attack by a phenomenon that humans refer to as corruption. Parasites are agents of corruption. But yeah, man. It's all wild shit. It happens at the meta scales of plane. Weird. I didn't believe in any of this stuff. Then I went to the phenomenon humans refer to as heaven and found out I'm a thing. And somehow I'm able to see all this stuff. So go figure. But yeah. By the way, reality, something humans often get wrong. There's a difference between reality and individual experiences within reality. Everyone's like, oh, my reality is this. My reality is that. No, there's only one reality. Your experience in reality is different from reality as a system. Okay? Just like there's only one truth. Truth is what's consistent with reality. This is my version of truth. No, there is no there is no version of truth. There is only truth. There's only truth. Now, there are perceptions of truth. People can experience truth in different ways, but there is only one truth, just like there's only one reality. All right? Just to clarify that point. Anywho! So, yeah, you know what? I'm wondering if I dialed in on this shit. If I ever hit flow state. It's like again, I'm somewhat distracted. I have so many things going on in life, which ironically is the reason why I started this particular podcast on this subject here. You know what? I have a lot going on right now. There's a lot of stress. I'm, so far as I'm aware, the only person who has to live multiple lives at the exact same time and figure out how to best proceed forward in all of them simultaneously. How do you do this? This shit didn't come with an instruction manual. I'm figuring it out on the fly. How can I know I'm not insane with no, I guess, guidelines to sort of determine what sanity is, especially from within the experience I purport to be living through now? How do you know you're sane? How? Well, If your mind is synced up with reality and you can observe and interact with effects that exist and function mutually independent of your inner story, you're probably sane. Like, even though it's like I'm not necessarily dialed into the greater social narrative, I'm aware of the greater social narrative. I can consume and process information and conceptual models from the greater social narrative. I can interact with it in real time. I'm aware of it. I can engage it without having to retreat into my inner story. Am I given to it? No, but I mean, am I aware of it and can I interact with it on its terms? For the most part, yeah. Yeah. Can I do the same thing with reality? Yeah. Yeah. Seems my mind works well enough. Now, people who are sort of lost in their inner story, like, oh, you say things that challenge my inner story. You're crazy, Donald King. You're evil, Donald King. No, you're just a narcissist. Unfortunately. And again, through no fault of your own, it results from trauma. And the socialization process is traumatic. So I get the aggression, I get the animus, but barking at things doesn't make them less real, and it won't make them go away. Come hang out with your boy. I'm gonna get you right. Oh, Brother Lucas asks, what do you love? Everyone and everything. I love God and or reality. But I love everything. I love everyone. You know? I don't know how to make it, I don't know how to expound upon that or make it simpler. You know? Every day when I pray, I ask for very basic things. Ask one, to help keep me honest, or God to help keep me honest. Two, for me to make every situation I enter into better than it was when I got there. Help as many people as I can to be a good father to my son. For things to stay in working order so that I can be as effective as I possibly can. But more than anything, I want to help people, you know? And that's my motivating. That's what motivates me in life. Desire to help others. Desire to uplift others, you know? I just want to be the best person that I can be. You know? That may not be everyone's aspiration in life, but it's most certainly mine. That's it. You know what's really funny too? Every relationship that I enter into, be it romantic, be it friendship, be it business, I go into the relationship thinking about all the ways I'm going to be good to the person I form a relationship with. I don't think about what I'm going to get from them first. I think about the value I'm going to bring to them. And then I stick to my guns and do everything in my power to bring that value to them, even when or if I don't get equal value in exchange. I don't know about you, but that, in my view, is the sign of a healthy mind. When you're not so focused on you and your experience and how you're benefiting, and you can deprioritize yourself towards being good and bringing value and balance to others, you're mentally okay, at least in my book. So yeah, anywho, we have run a little long, folks. I didn't expect it to run that long. But, anywho, we are here shooting this on Facebook Live. You can also follow me on Instagram. You can catch me on YouTube. I'm posting on Medium as well. If you guys get any sort of benefit from what I'm doing and you want to bless your boy with a little bit of love, you can always hit me up on Cash App. Just toss something your way. Hey, man, good sermon, bruh, or whatever. You can always join the Patreon family at Avatar Psycho XIII. Any and all proceeds that go towards building this up to a larger platform. I want to reach as many people as I can while I'm still in this form. And yeah, man, just get her done, It's all about trying to help people, That's what it is in my book. Let me see. Brother Lucas writes, does your love bring you peace? That depends on what you call peace. Certainly, cowardly ideologues and or narcissists or people who are traumatized and who want to take their anger and frustrations out on me towards transferring their aggression into me. I don't experience a lot of peace when it comes to them because their goal is to be disruptive. But in terms of my overall experience in life, I'd have to say, yeah. You see, before I became this thing I purport to be, I was wildly narcissistic myself. I was traumatized. Grew up in a really bad circumstance, and, my identity, it became this sword and shield combo I used to sort of mow other people down and impose my will onto the world around me towards feeling potent and powerful. And now that I no longer have to hide behind that mask and I can just be honest and authentic, yeah, I'd say that it's like I experience a great deal more peace than I did many moons ago. It's not easy letting go of the identity. It's a hard thing for me to do, but when you let go of it and you're just free and honest, your mind is lighter, it's more agile. You can do a lot more things. There's greater elasticity. You win. And not in the sense of competition, but like if there was some comparison to be made between narcissism and authenticity, I say authenticity has it hands down. Yo, I'm out. It's your man. Y'all enjoy your evening. All right.